This is great to see so many people of different ages. I was telling Sailesh, I thought I was part of the youth group until he told me he appreciates the intergenerational partnerships, which immediately made me feel from another generation. But this is so exciting. Thanks to everyone who are here. From the Green Hydrogen Organization, we think that youth has a key role. Obviously, we're doing this for future generations. We need to address climate change immediately, but there's no one, I think, who can tell the other older generations what needs to happen better than all of you. So we're so happy that you're here, and we're happy to have also Sailesh Singhal, who will also introduce himself, but he's the founder of Youth for Green Hydrogen. Right. I will hand straight over to you.
Thank you thank you so much, Ines, and to all of you at Green Hydrogen Organization for having us here. It gives me immense pleasure to share that this is one of the assemblies that is going to discuss on youth participation in green hydrogen. And before doing that, I would like to thank our mentor, Eric, for making that possible while he was there in India. He took it on him to launch the Youth for Green Hydrogen right from the foothills of Himalayas. And from there till today, we are so happy to see that how young people have been participating towards what we believe has been being led through the Green Hydrogen Organization. Before that, let's have a big round of applause for Green Hydrogen Organization for engaging youth voices in this essential discussion. Of course, no one requires the introduction of Dr. Andrew Forrest. However, some of our friends are joining in from India. I would like to share that he is one of those persons who come from a very humble background. And let me tell this to all of you. There was a time that he and his family went through a hardship, lost one of the essential companies, and again in 2009, he bought it back. I think if someone has to look at the success, this is what success looks like. So, taking it ahead from there, I think today we are here on understanding and participation of more and more young people in this entire process of green hydrogen. So over the last few days, we had a chance to hold a lot of consultations. And of course, students from ISARE School of Business and Geneva Graduate Institute, and a lot of people from online also suggested a lot of pointers. So we have them right over there with you on the table. We are more than happy to have a discussion each point by point, because I must say this, when the Green Hydrogen Assembly is set to create the standards for the world, it is also one of those organizations and the assemblies which is going to set the first youth declaration for the world on green hydrogen. And let's have a big round of applause once again for Jonas and the entire team and the secretary, and of course Dr. Andrew. So we had discussions on working group, and the working group came together. And once again, we are here to finalize the final declaration that will be put out in the last closing plenary session. So we have there, if maybe Simran could share the document to.
We have 5 copies. I think we have 1.
Yeah, this is the document. That's right.
I can edit that. Oh, you didn't get one? Sure you.
She drafted it.
You drafted it. You probably know what's in it then.
Yeah, I participated. But I think I have this.
All right.
This one.
Thank you, ma'am.
This is like an impromptu for me.
You are very good and like a professional. Keep it up.
I welcome here into the United Nations.
Wow.
And then the United Nations to COP27.
I am going to give that mic to you to share the thought. Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course, also giving, this is, being very honest, this is like an impromptu for me. So bear with me if there are any mistakes. Quite happy to learn and co-learn and share that, because as Deputy Prime Minister said that yesterday, It is not an era of competition, it is an era of coordination, so I'm more than happy to coordinate and take it ahead from here. So we have had 3 more women. Now, when Dr. Andrew Forrest said that yesterday, that his organization happens to be one of those, where 9 out of, on the 9 people in the leadership position, 5 of them are women. I am so happy that in this working group assembly that we are here on the youth, 3 of them are women out of 4. So that is like 75% mandate, which of course would be the first in anywhere to have that kind of a mandate. So we have with us on the co-chair, just a moment please, Alexandra Marculia and Maria Jose Ocha. So please feel free to introduce yourself and share your first thoughts on why you feel young people are important in green hydrogen.
I'll keep here or?
Anyway.
I think standing up is good, so if you don't mind.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Maria Jose Ochoa and I'm here along Sasha. We are here part of ESADE. We are studying global governance, economics, and legal order. And well, we are really excited to be here. For me, it's a really pleasure, and these couple of days I have learned a lot of things, and I really didn't have a lot the idea of what is green hydrogen and the importance of it, but now I can say that we are the future demand. And we are the future generation that we're gonna take part of leading companies, the public sector, and part of the government. And as we have seen in these couple of days, it's really important, and green hydrogen is a key factor to change the world. And that's why it's important to have finance, to have involvement, and have good policies, the government and the public and private sector. And we as young leaders, we should be involved and involucrated in these kind of things. And I honestly think that I'm here representing youth, and I think that we should have more participation in these kind of events. If we really want to change the world and do something, we should start doing this, and I'm really happy and thankful for being here.
Perfect.
Hello everyone, my name is Sasha. It is a great pleasure to be here along with all of you guys, and I 100% agree with what has been stated so far by Majo. I'm a strong believer in our generation, and I see that the older generation is living a world that is great, but that leaves a lot of room for change, positive change, and I think we have the power to do that. And green hydrogen is one of the tools that can help us to change the world for the better. Before this conference, to be honest, I had zero idea about what green hydrogen is. I didn't know that it was a great source of energy. I'm not a physics student, I'm an economics student, so I didn't really know the process behind it. But now that I've been here for the past 2 days, I understand that the mechanisms behind green hydrogen are not as complicated as I thought they were. And in terms of financing, we can adapt the markets that we had for the carbon and readapt them to be opt for green hydrogen to finance it. That the technology is already there, we just need to use it, and that we need to get the governments to be involved to set regulations for 2 very important things. First of all, we have to reduce the way carbon is used today, and second of all, we have to drive the demand for hydrogen, because especially with youth, not a lot of people even know what hydrogen is. So if we can first raise the awareness of that amongst the youth, and then if we're talking about the older generations, if we can drive the demand for hydrogen among the companies and make the use of hydrogen, in fact, a low coster for production, this would be a great step to start. I would like to bring forward the example of electric cars and how in the beginning they were thought to be a madness, and yet now it is something that a lot of people use, and how in Norway there are regulations that drive up the demand for electric cars. And we're talking about the owners of the electric cars being allowed to drive on the bus lane and on the taxi lane. Of course, with hydrogen, it's a bit more difficult, but there is the shipping industry, which is kind of similar to the bus and the taxi lane. And if we introduce regulations that would allow people who are in the shipping industry to have the easier routes, or maybe, for example, staying in port for a lower rent, then we can guarantee that the shipping industry as well is involved in the hydrogen use. We have the electricity industry that can be adapted, and the reason I think we're all here today is because we understand how complex and yet how simple it can be if we all work together. So once again, it is a great pleasure, and I think that this document is a great start to this journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria, for that. Just having one more introduction, we have with us, of course, we all are aware about Simran Sinha, who is also the co-chair for this. So Simran, would you have some thoughts to share, please?
Thank you, Sailesh. Thank you to the Green Hydrogen Organization again for taking this up, having the youth participation here. I do not have much to add, actually. I can say a bit about myself. I'm the intern with the organization with an international development degree. And I did my master's from the Geneva Graduate Institute, which is where I got introduced to the topic of green hydrogen. It was my professor, I think a lot of you already know him. His name is Tim Flannery. He's from Australia as well. And he's the one, I took a course with him, which was negative carbon options. And that's how I got introduced to it. And that's how I'm here, actually. So that's what motivated me to be here. That also brings me to the other part. We have students joining from the Geneva Graduate Institute. They're working on an advanced research project with Monaco Hydrogen Alliance on how to decarbonize the maritime sector. So if I can ask one of the two of you, Cam or Tanvi, to say a few words.
Hello, everybody. I hope I'm audible, and I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to join you all virtually from the Geneva Graduate Institute with my colleagues Camille and Margarita. The three of us are working on a project. It's an applied research project with the Monaco Hydrogen Alliance, as Simran has already introduced. And we are essentially researching the applicability of green hydrogen to maritime mobility and how we can decarbonize the maritime mobility sector using green hydrogen. We were very fortunate to have received virtual access to many of the sessions being organized at the Hydrogen Summit, and are very thankful to the Green Hydrogen Organization for this opportunity. During these sessions, something that we learned was that hydrogen can essentially be deployed in several uses. And we really got very valuable insights into the market mechanisms which can promote the use of hydrogen, as well as the various ways in which green hydrogen can be supported through government policy. And this was very insightful for us and very helpful for our research for sure. And with regard to the role of the youth in proposing green hydrogen and encouraging its usage, the three of us are in agreement with everything that everyone else has said in today's session about how the youth have a very important role in advocating for the use of green hydrogen, because it is their future that is at stake, and it is their future that has to be safeguarded against climate change. Something that we learned from a few sessions that we attended is that with green hydrogen, the technology that is required is already in place or is being tried and tested by various stakeholders. But it is the advocacy piece that needs to be worked on in order to be able to advocate it as a valuable method of decarbonizing the economy as we know it today. And we are in complete agreement with this. Somebody here today just cited the example of electric cars and how people hadn't heard of it at all till a few years ago. And now suddenly it is being proposed as such an important solution. And we think that with the right governmental support, the right international policies, and of course, youth engagement and advocacy, this will be very easy to achieve. And we are very grateful for the document that is in circulation and for Sailesh's contribution to it as well. And we support all efforts to advocate for a greater role of youth in promoting green hydrogen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tanvi, for joining us here. And to all, sorry? Okay, so could we have Jonas share some thoughts, please?
No, just one very quick point. And yes, I'm Jonas with the Green Hydrogen Organization, and it's great that you're all here, and you are so welcome. And we really look forward to working together with you. Now, I have one suggestion. There is, of course, a world-famous campaigner on, a youth campaigner on climate from Sweden, in Greta Thunberg. I want you to remember one thing about her success, but also limitation, has been she doesn't propose solutions, because she knows that the moment she does that, it will dilute her message on just how severe the situation is. There was a tactical, strategic choice by her in the campaign that she has built with so many friends so successfully. That's great. But we now need, in parallel, youth campaigning that also, alongside, looks at the solutions, just as Tanvi said. And of course, green hydrogen is one of those solutions. So a little sort of recommendation or suggestion is, see yourselves, as you build a coalition, a movement, and so on, as something very much in parallel. Here you have the campaigning for the fact that the situation is pretty dire for our globe, and you come pointing towards some of the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonas, for putting that out. I think that is exactly how we set the road rolling. And we set ourselves in this foot where we want to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius and the net zero emissions. But, having more of discussion, now could we have the document and the thoughts and the presentations that we have had? More than happy to discuss on each pointer, or we could have maybe, if we have some more suggestions to remove or edit, we can do that as well. And we would, of course, have Dr. Andrew share some thoughts, which he on parallel shared, that how young people should go to other assemblies as well in making that happen. So would you like to share the thought? Yeah.
Okay. So, team, some of you have already met me. Andrew Forrest, I founded Fortescue Future Industries. I don't see electric cars as that much of a solution, to tell you the truth. You plug your car into the grid. If the grid's fossil fuel, oil, gas or coal, that's what's going into your car. So I'm asking you guys, don't fall for greenwashing, okay? Greenwashing is everywhere. Companies are spending a fortune on it, a veritable fortune. You have one weapon, and it's an overwhelmingly powerful weapon. It will beat everything. Your ability to connect to other youth. The fact you are young. That really matters, because you, without any doubt, will inherit the earth. I won't be here. You will be in charge. And you've got to make sure everybody knows that. The steps we take today will impact for when you hand over the reins to the next generation. These steps today are your most critical steps. The world will either swing towards more greenwashing, more burning of fossil fuels to make, say, hydrogen. You've heard of this complete lie called clean hydrogen. Have you heard of cancer-free tobacco? Or have you heard of clean coal? I mean, these are just straight-out lies. There is only one clean form of energy on Earth, and it's green hydrogen. Yes, we're starting to make a great deal of green electricity, and you can plug that in, but that works for some of the time. The sun's got to be shining, the wind's got to be blowing. When that doesn't work, you need a massive battery. No battery in the world is big enough. The battery in the world which is big enough is the biggest medium on the universe, the biggest medium in the world, and that happens to be hydrogen. So we can store all the energy we ever want in hydrogen during the evening, and we can send it back out during the day when we need it, or we can store it during the summer and send it back out in the winter when everyone needs to heat their homes. It is the bulletproof fuel, and it will never harm the planet. The problem was we couldn't define what it was. Until we can define what it is, no one can agree on it. Grace and I have just been through this massive campaign called modern slavery. Who's heard of modern slavery? Righto. Well, I can assure you only a few years ago, no one would have, because we didn't agree on what the term was. You had India arguing with Indonesia, China arguing with North America. Was forced child marriage, was that slavery? Some people said, no, that's forced child marriage, it's something different. Now we all know that if you're forced, like a forced marriage or a forced child marriage, or you're forced to do labour, or you're taken away and you're forced to do stuff you'd never voluntarily do, that's just caught now in one big term called modern slavery. And guess what? Governments around the world are now legislating it out. We'll get rid of modern slavery because we now know what it is. We've all agreed. So 1 hour ago, I was chatting to the United Nations, and I let them know that I was coming to this meeting. And I also let them know, with great celebration in my heart, that the world has declared what green hydrogen actually is. It's made from renewable electricity, sun and wind only, not nuclear, not coal, not this, not that, which will cook your planet, but just renewable electricity. It will produce less than 1 kilo of carbon for every kilo of hydrogen. That to me sounds like a lot, right? Until you think, hang on, steel made from hydrogen produces next to no carbon. Steel made from coal produces 26 kilos of carbon for every kilo of steel. 26. If you burn oil or coal to make hydrogen, it produces 16 kilos of carbon for 1 kilo of hydrogen. So the only fuel we must use is green electricity to make green hydrogen. And it, of course, respects the environment, respects human rights, and no slavery. So that term is now accepted. And when I was speaking to the United Nations, I put to them, I'm going to suggest to this youth group, as the founding members of Youth for Green Hydrogen, that's what you are, that you guys get together and you petition the United Nations for representation in United Nations Youth for a session in New York in September. Youth for Green Hydrogen. If you can collectivise yourself into that, I will help get an audience with the Deputy Secretary General or the Secretary General, and we'll push to get a seminar or a session in the United Nations Annual Conference in September in New York. If we can achieve that, team, if we can achieve that, then you've got COP27 in Egypt after that in November, okay? And then we get really serious, because COP is about stopping global warming. All the world comes together. And if we have a United Nations endorsed Youth for Green Hydrogen in September, and we present it in November at COP27, then everyone has to take into account that actually the youth of the world does not want to inherit a world which is burning, a world which is drying out, a world which is heating up. You are going to inherit, because you are demanding it now, a green hydrogen world. So I want to leave you with that thought. Jonas, where's Jonas? He had to run, but I'll make sure that we get your names, your numbers, and you guys organise yourselves, and then I will support you. Okay? That's my idea.
Let's have a big round of applause for him once again.
Oh, no.
Because this is...
He came to listen to young people. He came to listen.
Because this is exactly what we believed would happen and start from Green Hydrogen Assembly. One of the mandates lies that this is an initiation process to COP27, and this is exactly the place where he has committed to do that. But of course, before going towards it, we would have Eric also to share his thoughts on Youth for Green Hydrogen while he was there in India to launch it greatly. So Eric, would you please have quick thoughts on that?
No, I will be very, very brief. I mean, I'm traveling a lot around the world, and on many occasions I speak to groups of young people, and the one question I get more often than any other question is the following. can I change the world? Can I do something which really have an impact on the world? And the answer to that is very simple. Who else? If you are not changing the world, who will do it for you? No one, I tell you, no one else. Every major movement which has changed this world started with young people. Andrew spoke about slavery, modern slavery. 200 years ago, slavery was normal all over the world. Not just modern slavery, but slavery pure and simple. You can send the police to get back your slave in most parts of the world. Christian priests said this is in the Bible. Mullah said this is in the Quran. And economists said this is the absolute foundation for the British Empire. The United Kingdom, British Empire will go down and under if we don't have slaves. Then some young people raised their hand and said, hey, is this really in the Bible? Is this really in the Quran? Is this really proper economic theory? And later, of course, they get support from more powerful people like, say, Abraham Lincoln and many others. And slavery in its original form was defeated. There's not one place on planet Earth today where you can send police to bring back your slave. But then a new issue came up, modern slavery, which we, of course, then needed to fight. Give one other example. When Martin Luther King came to Washington in 1963, he said, I have a dream. He didn't say, I have a nightmare, because he wanted to excite people, to get them to act, and then you need a dream. But he could have said, I have a nightmare. Remember, at that time, blacks could not attend the same restaurants in the United States, or go to the same schools as whites. When President Lyndon B. Johnson was the president at that time, when his driver went from Washington, D.C. down to Texas, the driver was black. He couldn't even visit a toilet along the road. He needed to go many, many kilometers into the bush to find a toilet where blacks were allowed. That was the situation, the nightmare of the time. Who started the struggle against it? Young people. The main book about the movement for racial liberation in the United States is called The Children. The Children. Because these guys were teenagers or in the very, very early 20s, and the old man of the movement, Martin Luther King, he died at the age of 38. It was murder, he was 38. It was not, we see him as an old man, he was 38. And what he did was in his 20s and early 30s. So be assured, rest assured, there is no one else to change the world for you. You will change the world. It's the young people who's driving any major movement. And the most important movement in the 21st century is the movement to create a sustainable planet. To create a planet where we live with animals, with plants, with the beauty of this land, where we live together with respect, and where we do not harm this one planet we have together. And green hydrogen is for sure a major part of solution to that problem. So keep up the fight, you will win, and all this, like Andrew and myself, we will support you for sure.
Thank you so much, Eric, for that.
Could we have
of course,
sorry.
Of course, these consultations, these points all came together. Would we have any young person to share final thought? Please.
Super quick, no problem. No, actually, I just have basically one question. But first, I just wanted to say that I strongly welcome this initiative. I myself, I'm 27. I just turned project manager for renewable energy, and I got into hydrogen. And at some point, I wanted to just, I don't know, enjoy trying to tackle some solutions. And I started to meet a lot of people in the sector. I think they were all more than 50 years old. And I was wondering, okay, but where is the youth? Where is the leaders? Where are the leaders? And basically, I'm happy I found Salish with this Youth for Green Hydrogen movement. I actually myself started to build a website to have a database of young leaders in the sector. I will be more than happy to, I don't know, talk about it with you and see how it could benefit the movement. And so my question is basically, what is the roadmap, and how will you make this movement global? Because I think that's what we need. Thank you.
Perfect. I'll get back to the answer to that, of course. But as Dr. Andrew has to go to the session, I was thinking this consultation and the pointers that we have, the declaration here, have come down to a public opinion. And since this is the final document that we, all of us in consensus have finalized, so could we sign this declaration and then present it right in the closing plenary session that we would have for COP27? So we would have Dr. Andrews to sign it first. Yes. And then we'll go around with this.
Okay. I'll be very proud to sign, but I only signed to support you. Okay? You are going to make it happen.
Please be here. Mari, please.
Might need a pen. Anyone got a pen which works? Well, I don't think it's working, guys. This one. Okay. Sign here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andrew.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Cheers.